Are you thinking about trying 75 Hard? Or maybe you've just seen on social media the really large rise in popularity of the program over the last couple of years and just want to see what it's all about. Well, at the beginning of COVID, I moved out of downtown Toronto when we went into full lockdown, and I completed 75 Hard during this time when I was back in my mom's house and didn't really have much else to do. And it really kickstarted my journey into fitness and self-development and just professional development as a whole. So in this video, I want to go through my thoughts and opinions on the program. Is it worth trying, the pluses and minuses and all that good stuff? So without further ado, let's get into this video. Caffeinated and chillin'. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Alex and this is, as always, the Lifting Nomad. And as we get into this, let's talk about 75 Hard. What is it? Where did it come from? All that. So first things first, what is it? Where did it get started? Who came up with it? Well, the founder of the program is credited as Andy Frisella, who is the CEO of First Form Pharmaceuticals. He also does like some consulting and public speaking, but that's what I think where he's most known for. And likely the popularity of his podcast on Apple Podcasts, it's like Real AF. Originally it was the MF CEO Project, which personally, that's when I was listening to some of these episodes, was when it was still the original version of it. And to be completely honest, I do think it's kind of gotten a little more controversial than I originally liked. He has a very big personality and a very big voice, and he has a very compelling way of speaking, but I just think he does take kind of a controversial approach to a lot of things, so it's kind of hard for me to listen to all of his material. I do think he makes some really, really good points around motivation and inspiration and keeping yourself dedicated, keeping your circle small, working hard, all that good stuff. I just think he does have a little bit of hot take sometimes for my taste. You know, up to you whether you agree or disagree with that. Obviously, we're all entitled to our own opinions, but I do think he is a very smart guy and has done some incredible things through his career, but just has like, you know, a little bit of it's too spicy it takes for my taste. So I don't know exactly when the first iteration of 75 Hard was. In his podcast, he talks about it just being like sometime in the last like 5 to 10 years is when he came up with the idea for 75 Hard. He's done it repeatedly throughout that time and has also started this program called like Live Hard, which is the idea being you do this 75 Hard in perpetuity for however long you want to try it. So what is the program itself? Well, essentially it's a 75-day program slash lifestyle change. It's advertised not as a fitness program. It's more about a mental health and mental strength program to actually complete it. And essentially it has a set of rules that you must follow for those 75 days in order to complete it. So the first things first, you have to follow a diet. And that's actually what I really like about this program is that it's not one size fits all. It really can be flexible depending on what your goals are and what you want to keep yourself accountable to, but you do have to follow a diet of some kind. When I did this, I followed keto, so essentially I was just not eating any like high carb meals at all. It was pretty much just all protein or fats. Keto is a pretty well popular diet at this point. If you're curious, you can definitely like Google how it works, but essentially you're just eating a very low carb diet. So that's what I stuck to during my 75 Hard program. You also have to do 2 workouts every single day, one for 45 minutes each, and one of them has to be outside. So I moved back to my mom's house when we went to lockdown, like I said, and that was during March, April, and May of 2020 is when I completed 75 Hard for the first time. So what I ended up doing for my diet was keto. What I ended up doing for my workouts was I built a home gym during that time in our garage, which was not the most luxurious, but it got the job done and really kind of got me in shape for the first time in my life. And the second thing I was doing was I was riding my bike outside for the 45 minutes. So every single day I would do 45 minutes outside on my bike. Ended up putting in like 1,500 kilometers on it during that time because I was doing it every single day for close to an hour. And it was, you know, a really, really good time to listen to podcasts. That's when I listened to a lot of Andy Frisella's content, like Huberman and like all these self-development resources. I listened to a ton of audiobooks, a ton of podcasts, and just really that time where you're spent outside pretty much just by yourself gives you a load of time to commit to listening to development podcasts, development books, something that you can actually grow and become better in. And outside of that, so those are your 2 like kind of fitness requirements. You're also required to not have any alcohol or cheat meals throughout the 75 days. So what he's defined as a cheat meal is anything that's not included in your diet. So for me, when I was on a keto diet, I couldn't have a high carb meal at all once for those 75 days. That's like the commitment you're making. Then you have to take a progress picture every single day. This is like, I think, a really good way to see your progress over the time that you're doing it, 75 days. You can make a lot of physical progress doing 2 workouts a day and being on a diet and not cheating or drinking alcohol. You can make a massive change on your physique in that kind of time frame with that sort of work ethic. Finally, you have to drink 1 gallon or 4 liters of water throughout the day. This wasn't too big of an adjustment for me because I do that every single day anyways. And then finally, you have to read 10 pages of some sort of nonfiction development book every single day. This cannot be an audiobook. It has to be like physical. I think he says you don't have to have a physical book. It can be like an e-reader or a Kindle or something like that, but you do have to read a physical book. It cannot be an audiobook. So now you've done the preparation, you understand the basics of it. Kind of the thing that I like that this is different from a lot of other programs is there's no like trainer or group resource to keep you accountable throughout the 75 days. This is literally just you versus the person in the mirror every single day. There's no one else to keep you accountable. There's no group where you can message if you're feeling tired or burnt out. It's literally you versus you. And that's kind of the whole point of the entire challenge is if you cheat and you end up like lying, you're not really committing that lie to anyone else. It's just to yourself. So if you complete the 75 days, but you went off and had a 3-day bender and cheated on your diet and drank alcohol, and then you say you completed it, I mean, sure, that's great. Maybe you can want to tell people that, but you're really only lying to yourself and kind of doing that false sense of accomplishment to yourself, which I think is even harder to live with than lying to other people. So now that you understand it, this is my results from when I did it. I went from like 178 pounds down to like 155 pounds at the end. This was kind of like the beginning of me actually getting in shape for the first time in my life and learning about nutrition and learning about rest and learning about supplementation and getting myself into a really, really good, I think, physique, considering I had never had abs, never really had vascularity in my arms. This was like very kind of life-changing for me to go through and get into decent shape. And it's kind of what set me on this path over the last few years where I've managed to stay in shape. If you've never been to my channel before, I talk about traveling and living a balanced life now. I do think this program is very unforgiving. So it was easier for me, I think, because during this time there wasn't really much going on in the world and it was really easy to stick to this. Like obviously it was challenging, but it wasn't like a lot of temptation because I was living at home. There was no parties, there was no trips, there was no events, there was nothing going on for this, essentially a year in Toronto. So for me, it was easy to just go home, work out and eat on a diet every single day and read a book. Pretty much was the only changes. I was working from home during this time too, so it wasn't exactly challenging. But of course, you're still exercising for an hour and a half every day. You're never cheating. You're never drinking any alcohol. And kind of what kickstarted this for me was at the beginning of the lockdown, a lot of my friends and kind of think the rest of the world on like TikTok and Instagram, everyone was like Uber eating all the time and drinking alcohol all the time and just like watching Tiger King and not really accomplishing anything. And it really set off like a lot of red flags in my mind of, okay, after the first month of lockdown, I realized, okay, this isn't just going away. Originally we were told 2 weeks to flatten the curve, but then it ended up lasting almost two and a half years in Toronto. We're still seeing like some of it. And so it was kind of like very humbling to see, okay, this may be for a longer time. And I didn't want to get to the end of the lockdown and realize I had just gotten fat. I had become like an alcoholic. I hadn't really accomplished anything. I saw an opportunity to better myself and to develop a good habit that is going to last for, so far so good. It's still lasting a few years later. Now, in retrospect, thinking about it in modern times when I'm traveling a lot and I'm eating out a fair bit and I'm going to parties and I'm going to different events and I'm going out and I'm meeting people and I'm going on dates, I do think it would be monumentally more difficult to do something like this. Not that I couldn't do it again, I just think you have to commit to a different lifestyle shift and you're likely going to have like a tough time. If your friends group and your friend circle likes going out and you see your friends on the weekends to go to a pub and get drinks and get wine and get food, it's gonna be really hard to stick to this diet and stick to the fact that you're not drinking alcohol. Versus, I think one of the best things you can do now is actually start this program with like your group of friends or like someone you go to the gym with or someone who can stick with this for you. That way, like if you are gonna go out to eat, the program doesn't say you can't eat out. You just have to eat the same diet. So I was eating like keto. So if I was gonna go out and do that again, I would just have like wings, right? Like go to a restaurant that has wings, have a Diet Coke and wings, boom. Then that's like still a keto meal that I'm having out. So it's not like it's impossible. And if I was gonna do it again, I think what I would do for my diet is just stick to like a calorie restriction or a calorie number for the entire length of the program. So right now I'm just doing like a little bit of a mini cut before my trip to the Dominican. I wanted to get back in like pretty good beach shape. So what I would do is I would say like 75 days of 1,800 calories every single day, and I can never cheat on that, and I can never break that. That would be like a pretty good diet that would let me still enjoy my training and enjoy my nutrition without being so restrictive of keto that can kind of take away some of my favorite foods. So who is the program best for? I think it's a really flexible tool that can get anyone to try a challenge that maybe they've been like putting off their work. They haven't been in as good a shape as they used to be. They've been eating too poorly. They've been spending too much money drinking alcohol. I really think it's a good time to try and reset and get yourself back into a good mental place, good financial place, a good physical place. And I've noticed recently, this video is being recorded at the end of October 2023. There's been a really big rise in popularity of this program this time of year, and I think it's because between essentially Labor Day and Christmas, there's not really too much that goes on. Like there's Halloween essentially is like one thing, but that's pretty much one night. There's not a ton that goes on, especially being in Canada where the weather starts to get colder, gets more depressing, the days get shorter, it gets gray throughout the day instead of sunny and warm. So people have less reason and less temptation to go out and do things. So if they are going to commit to something like this of 2.5 months of really strict dieting, really strict exercise, now is really the best time to do it, because after Christmas, it's going to slowly start to get warmer as we approach the summer months. There's a ton of holidays between January and April, and it just makes it, I think, a lot harder to stick to this and to commit to something like this in the longer run. So would I recommend it? Would I do it again? I think I would probably try it again if I had a group of friends who would want to do it. My life now is I'm very consistent with my training and nutrition anyway, so I don't think it would change me too much. I think it would be fun and really a great way to save money if I was prepping for like a longer trip and I wanted to just save money. I've definitely spent a lot this summer, and it's something I've been considering doing, is trying one of these programs. But I think with how my life has been from just traveling so much and being in all these places, it's really difficult to stick to a consistent diet when, if you're ever at an airport, it's going to be very difficult to stick to that unless I was just doing like a set calorie restriction. But for me at this point in my life, I think part of the reason I travel so much is to enjoy the food, is to enjoy a couple drinks, meet new people, and just have fun in the cities I'm traveling to. And then on top of that, my training has become a lot more consistent in like a 4-day routine with 6 days of cardio instead of 6 days and 6 days of cardio. Like my body was just really starting to feel burnt out, and I was plateauing in a lot of my lifts because I wasn't resting enough. And of those 6 days, I was sometimes like drinking, and then I'd be hungover, and one of those days the training wouldn't be as good. So I think now at this point in my life, I don't know if I would want to do it again, given that I've just been progressing so consistently in other ways that I wouldn't necessarily need to do it. But I do think it's a really useful tool and a valuable way to spend 2.5 months if you want to challenge yourself, if you want to see what you're capable of, and if you want to see like how committed you can be, and if you want to transform your body in 2.5 months, this is definitely a good way to do it. So hopefully this was useful as my kind of thoughts and opinions on 75 Hard. I do think it's a good tool and a good asset for people to have, knowing that they can do something like this and knowing that very few people on earth have completed it. Even if there's like tens of thousands, that's still, compared to the 9 billion people on earth, it's not really that many people that have gone through and completed it. So if you did it and stuck to it, you should be proud that you're part of an elite group. So hopefully this video was useful. If it was, feel free to leave a like or a comment in the section below. Always helps the algorithm. As always, my name's Alex. Welcome back to the Lifting Nomad. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.